Hello, can you all hear me?
You're audible.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, start Nishanti. Next slide. So the Chunli Stormwater Wetland Park, which is spread over 34,200 meters square of area, lies at the center of the newly formed urban town of Chunli, Harbin province of northeastern China. The land was initially a degraded wetland, which has been restored with the introduction of the park. Chunli lies in the floodplains of the southern bank of the Songhua River, which is one of the primary rivers of China. The terrain is generally flat, which has caused the Songhua to meander, form oxbow lakes, and thus keep on shifting its path, further creating wetlands. The site had already been marked as a protected regional wetland. But beginning in 2006, in the planning of the new urban district of Chunli, 32 million meters square of land was envisioned to be built upon over the next 15 years, with one-third of a million people living there, leading to the cutting off of water sources and depletion of groundwater table, and thus threatening the wetlands. Majority area was planned to be covered with impermeable concrete, leaving only 16% for permeable green spaces. The region's rainfall statistics, with 567 mm of annual monsoon rainfall, do not reflect this area statement of 16% green spaces. Due to this wetland depletion and shifting of the river's floodplains, the area has witnessed floods and waterlogging in the past. Thus, absorbing capacity of urban surface decreases and risk of stormwater flooding greatly increases.
Wetlands play an important role in the elevation of the burden of the water absorption from the concretized city. They function as natural sponges that trap and release the surface runoff. Vegetation in the wetlands also slow down the speed of the floodwater and spreads it slowly over the floodplains. Especially in the urban areas that lie downstreams like Chunli, wetlands counteract the large volume of the water runoff. In mid-2009, Turinscape architects were commissioned to design a stormwater park of 3 lakh square meters right in the middle of the neighborhood. The Urban Planning Institute of Harbin also roped in Peking University and the students for their expertise in the ecological restoration of natural landscape. This project was completed in a record time of 18 months. The design strategy was determined as a response to three main challenges. First, the architects had to come up with a way to preserve the disappearing wetland whose ecological and biological processes were being cut off by the urban context. Secondly, given the extensive area of the landscape, they had to do it economically. Finally, their goal wasn't only to preserve the landscape, they also wanted to utilize it to provide multiple ecosystems for the city. The main concept of the stormwater park was to elevate the overall plinth of the neighborhood to help retain and recharge the aquifer with stormwater that previously increased the river level during surge periods. Turinscape's strategy was to transform the dying wetlands into a green sponge which would help preserve them and additionally provide multiple ecosystem services for the new urban community.
Dr. Yu Konjiang, the founder of Turinscape and the dean of the College of Architecture at Peking, came up with the idea of sponge cities. A sponge city serves as an urban construction model for flood management by strengthening the ecological infrastructure and drainage systems and can alleviate the city's waterlogging by absorbing and capturing rainwater. China has already adopted the sponge city model as part of the pilot initiative in 16 districts. Stormwater from the newly built urban area is collected into a pipe in the circumference of the wetland. The filtration then occurs in 3 steps in the sponge. The sedimentation basement brings the water into the park from the rainwater pipes, which collect water from the neighborhood's impervious areas. The second level involves progressive removal of sediments and pollutants through a series of treatment ponds. And the last step occurs in the natural wetlands, where the cleansed water finally seeps into the groundwater table. The main idea behind the development of the park was to preserve the central part of the existing wetland. The construction is kept minimal so as to reduce the impact on the natural landscape. Then around the wetland core, a necklace of ponds and mounds was created using a simple cut and fill technique. This pond and mound peripheral ring creates a stormwater filtrating and cleansing buffer zone, forming a landscape filter between the nature and the city. So in the master plan, there are two entrances into the stormwater park towards the east and the west. The dark blue portion indicates the zone of the natural wetlands, which take up a majority of the area of the park. Then you have a series of these cut and fill mounds that lie along the edges of the wetland core, connected by paths made of grasscrete, which is which helps to maximize the permeable area. Then there's a network of skywalks that run above along the periphery of the core and connect all the pavilions and the towers.
The maximum amount of water that the stormwater park can handle is slightly more than a catchment area of 50 lakh cubic meters. Any additional water is diverted back into the river. The velocity of the water from the catchment area is controlled by including various landscape features like mounds and steps. The trees amidst the filtration ponds also help slow down the water flowing between the treatment and sedimentation ponds. Mounds along the periphery of the wetlands are planted with groves of native silver birch trees. Silver birch is an inundation tree, so that makes it suitable for withstanding an impact of a storm and its after effects like puddles, soil deposition, and rushing streams. Bringing back the native trees to create dense forests led to the reintroduction of over 20 species of birds into the city. Additionally, wetland grasses are grown in ponds of various depths, along with native hydrophytic, emergent, floating, and submergent plants. The entrance to the park creates a seamless transition between the inside and the outside by pulling people from the streets directly onto the network of skywalks. The ramp of the skywalk is integrated with the service building for ease of maintenance of the wetlands. The paths at the top level extend out over the wetlands to increase the engagement of the visitors. The skywalks are also equipped with a variety of pavilions to maximize views of the landscape under various weather conditions. The Stormwater Park aimed to create new recreational, aesthetic, and experiences for its visitors. The park provides a variety of ways to enable interaction between the visitors and the landscape. The interface between the edge and the wetlands is carefully designed to let people fully experience the water. Several features at the bridge level allow visitors to have a distant view and admire the nature at the center. Strategic seating at both levels provides picturesque spaces of rest along the paths.
The participation of the people in the park makes sure that it is a well-maintained urban amenity. The activity within the park can be understood at three levels. At the ground level, activities that require proximity to the water, such as fishing and relaxation at the water's edge occur. At the bridge level are mostly the activities that allow one to observe the water. People are concentrated on the decks or on the benches near the railings. Internal spaces like the pavilions and the towers get activated during the rains and the sunny days. Activities change according to the seasons and so does the landscape. During the rainy seasons, the wetlands play a very important role in the flood mitigation. However, during the dry season, the wetlands water can drop to dangerously low levels, jeopardizing the wildlife that depends on it. As a result, officials are sometimes forced to supplement the water loss with water pumped in from the Shongwa River. This process inevitably increases the cost and the energy expended. Despite of the few drawbacks, the park has solved the stormwater inundation problem for the area of 3 square kilometers and dramatically improved the water quality of Chunli. The development of the park has also led to increase in the real estate value around it, making the park economically viable in initiative. Overall, the park has proven to be a low-tech, inexpensive tool for stormwater management and has been upgraded to a national urban wetland park because of its contribution to the improvement of the ecological and biological conditions of Chunli. The success of the success of the stormwater park speaks to the effect well-preserved natural landscapes can have in keeping the drastic outcomes mindless constructions at bay. The efficiency and the speed with which the park was realized are clear and indicators of its vitality to the neighborhood. Unlike many other landscape projects, the focus of Chunli Stormwater Park is not anthropocentric. It leads to nature. Lets the nature take the center stage, highlighting the beauty of so-called messy landscapes through an aesthetic of reality.
Okay, that was very good. All you all covered everything. Does the class have any questions?
Let's finish entirely restorative landscapes and then ask questions, no, like last time.
Okay, okay, fine. Can we go on to the next presentation? Which is the next group, guys?
We're going next. The Chulalongkorn University Centenary Park. Okay, we'll just present. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Snigdha, you can start.
Yeah. The project we have studied is the Chulalongkorn University Centenary Park, which is in Bangkok, Thailand. Bangkok is a city which is at sea level, and due to rapid urban development, it faces critical resilience issues against climate change. Next. This is a GIF showing the urbanization of Bangkok in every direction, shifting from porous agricultural land that can breathe and absorb water to a concrete jungle. Due to this lack of permeable surfaces in the urban landscape, now it is threatened by rising seas, storm surge, and heavy seasonal and monsoon rain. Next. In 2011, Thailand was hit by the most damaging and expensive flood disaster. A lot of them had to escape the city, and some stayed back to take care of their belongings without electricity and water. Next. Then in 2012, a competition was held for a park which was won by the team led by Kochakon Vorakum, and the park was open to the public in 2017. This park is the first critical piece of green infrastructure for the city designed to mitigate these detrimental ecological issues and also to add much needed outdoor public green space to the otherwise grey city. It is a restorative landscape, the improvement of degraded land on a large scale that rebuilds ecological integrity and enhances people's lives. Next. Bangkok has one of the lowest public green spaces amongst megacities in Asia, and this park is the first new public park in almost 30 years. The park is located on a large university campus in central Bangkok. It is close to residential, entertainment, and major retail facilities. Next.
It's a 12-acre park with 1.3-kilometer green avenue, and it's designed with many ecological functions that sustainably collect and treat water, decrease flood risks, reduces the urban heat island, and promote pedestrian and bicycle transportation. Next. Bangkok being a flat city, the concept inclines the entire park to create a container for water such that every drop of water is utilized. As Bangkok experiences droughts and monsoons, the park's water and landscape will continually grow and transform to unveil new environments. Following the planting concept of establishing urban forests, 258 varieties of plants and trees have been grown either from seed or as young seedlings, which easily adapt to the climate change, recreate a healthy ecosystem, and provide habitat for local birds, pollinators, and insects. There are three major components to this park: water treatment system, the green roof, the rainwater tank, the constructed wetlands, detention lawn, and the retention pond. The rain and run of water runs from the green roof at the highest point to the retention pond at the lowest point. At the park's highest point is Thailand's largest green roof. Gallery, museum, and parking are some of the functions that have been inserted under this roof. This green roof is the catch basin for water. Next. Yeah, it is planted with native grasses and weeds, having low maintenance, need minimal irrigation, and the plants that can withstand uh, Thailand's extreme weather conditions. Runoff water is stored in rain tanks beneath the green roof, which is used to irrigate the roof in dry seasons, whereas overflow drains to the constructed wetlands. Next. The wetland steps down in elevation through a series of weirs and ponds. Water is cleaned every time it goes through plants until reaching the retention pond. Next.
From the constructed wetlands, the water treatment system culminates into the retention pond. The retention pond also has these water plants for the treatment. In the dry season, the water is pumped from the pond and is used as an irrigation system and is used in the irrigation system, thus preventing the stagnation of the water in the pond. At the edge of the pond, there are these stationary bikes which act as an interactive design element to create movement and to aerate the water, thus to educate and inspire the public. The entire park also acts as a detention lawn which absorbs all of the excess water in the water stressed city. The park also has these outdoor classrooms which are at the activated edges. It contains 8 landscape rooms which are along the 2 sides adjacent to the wetlands. Each space is based on a different material and contains a distinct program like a herb room, a meditation area, amphitheater, and reading areas. Each area provides a different opportunity for students, communities, and visitors to engage within the space and forming a visual connection from the park to the neighborhood. The entire park also acts as a roadway and has a road that runs perpendicular to the park, connecting 2 major streets of Bangkok, making it a natural extension of the park.
So, how does the park help in preventing floods? The park acts as a rain tree, which helps to reclaim the landscape's natural ecology. Elements of the park reach into the neighborhood for flood absorption and shade. The park is able to hold up to 1 million gallons of water, taking rainfall intensity, and sewage system of Bangkok into consideration. A single park cannot control flood for an entire city, but Chulalongkorn Park is a big first step towards it. Next. So, how does a park mitigate the idea of the flood water not being disease ridden? Next. Uh, the element that reaches the neighborhood extends the water drainage system, directing the water to the park. Here, the water is not allowed to stay stagnant as water flows from the green roof to the wetlands to the retention ponds. Next. What is the value addition of this park other than beautification? The 1.3-kilometer road running perpendicular to the park was redesigned to shift priority from cars to pedestrians and cyclists. Bangkok not only needs green spaces but also resilient landscaping to tackle climate changes. Next. So, how is this park a restorative landscape? So, this can be seen in 2 ways. Firstly, the restorative in a sense of ecological restoration, restorating damaged places to the natural condition. And secondly, it would be restorative landscape focusing on the innate human attraction to nature, referring to the psychological rejuvenation effects nature has on humans. Yeah, we are done. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good presentation. Can we move on to the next group?
Yeah, we'll start presenting. It's the Bishanang Mukio Park.
Yeah, go ahead. Screen is visible.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start. Sneha, you can move ahead.
Yeah.
So the Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park, formerly known as the Bishan Park, is a major park in Singapore located in the popular heartland of Bishan. Serving the residents of Bishan and Ang Mo Kio, the park runs along the Ang Mo Kio-Bishan boundary line. In the middle of the park lies the Kalang River, which runs through in the form of a flat river bed. It is the longest river in Singapore, flowing for over 10 kilometers. Next. Sneha? Sneha, can you just go next? Hello. Okay. The topography of the park is defined at a maximum elevation of 106 meters and average elevation of 27 meters. Bishan has a moderate climate prevailing. However, the park portrays its own microclimate. The geography of the district is largely characterized by the trees that grow on its foreground. These include various species such as rain tree, sea almond, handkerchief tree, trumpet trees, and more.
So starting from the history between 1870 and 1970, the Bishan Chinese cemetery that existed on the site of the new town became the largest in Singapore and stopped accepting new burials. The land was acquired by the government for housing development in 1970s. With increased urbanization, concrete channels and drains were built to stop flooding. Rivers were cleaned to reduce pollution. Kalang River's concrete channel in the Bishan Park was removed to integrate the two neighborhoods in the new park. The construction process lasted from October 2009 to February 2012 for 2.5 years, starting from a diverted meandering canal with plantation on its edges, retaining itself even after the floods, along with construction of walkways, gardens, play areas, and closing of the original Kalang Canal of the Bishan Park. The park was redesigned as a blue-green infrastructure (BGI) to accommodate more water flow to combat the increased incidence of flooding downstream due to urbanization, land development, dense population, and pollution, and to reduce pressure on the ecosystem while adapting to climate changes. Also, by increasing the length of the Kalang River from 2.7 to 3.2 kilometers to slow down the flow. The BGI was introduced with the idea of using the park as an infiltration basin and to give importance to resilient urban public spaces with mental and physical health benefits and cost benefits as well, as it would hold up 40% more water than if the previous concrete channel was rebuilt. It would have cost 15% more.
As part of the ABC, the Active Beautiful Clean Water Program, the canal running through Bishan Park was identified for major upgrading in the 2000s. The project was then expanded to include the rejuvenation of Bishan Park and became a collaborative effort by the PUB and National Parks Board. In redesigning the waterway and park, landscape architects from the Rambur studio were engaged. However, the idea and the vision of the park and its developers remain more than just using the space as a means of recreational escape. The project, with its many schemes, was a chance for the relooking of urban designs and urban landscape from a holistic perspective, apart from just aesthetics, and was marked as an approach which could possibly become the future of many such urban parks.
The Kalang River originally ran through the park for 2.7 kilometers in a straight concrete channel, blocked off from people by fences. Despite the barriers, the canal still attracted residents, especially children, who would climb into the canals to play. Once someone was in, the fences made it difficult to exit, dangerously trapping children with the rising water levels. Next. New bridges, interactive landscape features like stepping stones in the water, and a riverside gallery were built to encourage increased interaction with water. Important features of the old park were refurbished, including lots of space for Tai Chi and fitness groups, the community garden, and the dog run. 3 new playgrounds were made. Next. The water playground consists of channels of flowing water. Water behaves as it encounters obstacles. A series of metal sluice gates allows kids to direct and control its never-ending flow of water, allowing them to learn by observation about gravity and the motion of water. This water is supplied by filtered and treated pond water. Next. The sand-based play access play facility for children with different abilities. A play between kids with and without disabilities and special needs is encouraged. It allows kids to mount on wheelchairs to mount onto swings and an accessible merry-go-round with built-in seat belts that keep the kids safe while in play.
The Adventure Playground was renovated and reopened in January
2019 and now features a whole lot more structures for kids to play in. A wooden fort can be found at one end of the playground, fitted with bubble windows for little adventurers to keep a look outside from the inside. The fort also has slides leading down to the ground from its second level. There is also a dedicated play area for young children with buckets, swings, small play structures, and a merry-go-round. Next. To ensure that soil bioengineering techniques would work in slowing down the flow of water and preventing erosion, a 60-meter stretch of the river was diverted to create a test bed. Approximately 10 different types of bioengineering techniques were tested for 11 months before installation. These techniques, such as ripraps, gabions, brush mats, and fascines, thus allowed for stable slopes even during floods, while also creating a lush riparian environment full of plants. Next. This is an artificial wetland made up of 15 different cells and 4 terraces that purifies the river water and runoff. The layers of substrate filter out particulates and have mineral composites that bind and remove phosphates. The dense planting also filters out sediment while partially feeding off and removing nitrates in the water. After the surface runoff in the river water channeled through multiple wetland cells, the water is subjected to an ultraviolet treatment to remove bacteria. Next. The work around the perimeter of the park comes to almost 3 kilometers. The Kalang River runs across the park. The beautiful water, plants, fishes, and birds along the river, which is unfenced for about 1 kilometer. 3 long bridges are also cut across the park. Entries are situated at intervals along all the edges. The park is completely accessible via wheelchair.
Family and children of nearby residents, including the old and the young, the local community partners such as schools and NGOs, cyclists, and fitness enthusiasts enjoy the park. Photographers shoot landscape views, flora, and fauna. The park also provides allotment gardening plots consisting of a 2.5 meter into 1 meter raised planter bed and can be leased for 3 years at a charge. Next. Therapeutic gardens are outdoor gardens designed to meet the physical, psychological, and social need of park users. Together with therapeutic horticulture programs involving plants and nature, visitors can experience a range of health benefits. The therapeutic garden at Bishan Ang Mio Park was launched on 19 September 2017, designed in collaboration with the National University of Singapore. The garden is divided into 4 zones: fragrance zone, biodiversity zone, edibles and medicinal zone, and colors and textures zone. Next. When the works began to transform the canal into a meandering river, the concrete was actually cut into slabs and stacked to form Recycle Hill, a deliberate effort to preserve a part of the park's history and reuse the concrete in a creative way. Recycle Hill provides a good vantage point to view the entire park, and sitting atop that hill, is an award-winning sculpture, an enclosure for a swing, created to represent the fusion between nature and design. Next. Designed as a refuge in the heart of the Bishan Ang Mo Kio Park, the butterfly habitat is home to more than 30 species of butterflies out of the 300 in the world. The introduction of the naturalized river into the park has seen the biodiversity of the park increase by 30%. Singapore lies within the East Asian Australasian flyway, so the park can expect to receive some special migratory birds, including the Zanzibar red bishop, a native to Africa, the spotted wood owl, a native to jungle forest in Indonesia, and others. Birds, including the purple heron that are seldom seen in high dense urban neighborhoods, have also been spotted roosting among the vegetation. The park was also the home to the Bishan otter family. The Malay archipelago is one of the world's greatest biodiversity hotspots, second only to the Amazon, and the tropical rainforest climate is home to an abundance of lush vegetation. Yeah, we're done.
Okay, thank you. That was good. We It was a really interesting example of accessible or inclusive landscape. Let's move on to the next presentation.
Hi, we are at Parco Dora. We'll be going next, like it's a restorative park.
Okay,